Hey, this is Joel from BlankTV. If you've still not seen the movie A Band Called Death, or have not even heard about it, it's a documentary about three black brothers, literally siblings, the Hackney brothers, who in the very early 70s, in the heart of Motown Detroit, started their own rock and roll band. And it was really a punk rock band. This is well before Bad Brains, before Dead Boys, before Ramones, etc. And what transpired was, in 1974, there was literally no record label anywhere in the universe that wanted to sign a deal with an all-black rock band called Death. So let's take a look at a clip. The band's playing in a couple hours, and we're going to meet them for an awesome interview.
What do they now?
Nobody was making music like that in '73.
Three black brothers from Detroit, Michigan.
What were they called?
They were called Death.
That's a good name.
Have you lost your mind?
Told us you guys might have a record deal if you changed the name.
Absolutely not. We are fighting to maintain our identity.
It's pretty hard to be black playing rock because you had to be Motown if you were black.
White boy music.
We got turned down by every major label.
I just put the tapes in a safe place. I didn't think about it.
One day the world's going to come looking for the Death Master tapes.
There's been hardcore history sitting up in that attic, and no one's known about it.
We're just now discovering this band that had been sort of lying in wait.
Something they pressed 30 years ago, selling for $800.
Dad, why didn't you tell me?
All right, awesome. Well, I gotta say, it's one of my favorite documentaries this year, and at BlankTV, we are very excited and honored that these gentlemen find the time to be with us. Founding members of Death, we've got Bobby, we got Dennis, and we got Bobby Duncan on guitar, the Hackney brothers, these two guys right next to me. Gentlemen, Death, nice to meet y'all.
Nice to meet you, man.
I got it all right.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks so
thank
much,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
You know, for the people who still have not seen the movie, you know, I know you've got the question a lot, but you know, one of the questions is the name Death, the name of the band you call it Death. Now, your brother, that was his idea to call it that, and you guys were rejected by just about every single label when you were offered a deal.
Yeah.
Something to that extent?
Yeah, it was something to that extent. I mean, you know, the name did come from David. We took some getting used to you know, acclimate to the name, and Dave, you know, explained us his concept about the name, and you know, we began to accept the concept and the name too. So that's kind of the way it went. And once we did get our masters semi-finished, and Don Davis, who was head of Groovesville Productions at the time, he started marketing us around. Long story short, some people said the music was okay, but they didn't like the name, but they thought the music was too fast, and you know, other people had other reasons, but basically it was, yeah, rejected pretty much everywhere.
Was it a big thing? I mean, you know, in 1974, if I'm right, you know, 1974, a black rock band called Death. Was there response not just by the labels, but by maybe the police and other entities in Detroit?
You mean like, was it accepted by these entities?
Yeah, or were they concerned? You know, with that kind of name, they thought there was going to be some kind of negative activity related to it or something.
Well, we got that kind of reaction from a lot of people, but no, not really the police. The police just really wanted us to pipe down, because the neighbors was always calling. You know, we were always being called on because of how loud we were. So they didn't really care what our name was. But you know, it's funny. I mean, it was only within a lot of the industry and trying to shop it around, and of course we got the rejection, you know, from a lot of our family members and a lot of our friends, you know, who didn't understand the concept of the name Death, you know, and I mean, it was, you know, just odd enough that we three were playing rock and roll in the middle of the 70s, in the heart of the black community on the east side of Detroit.
Well, one of you went to see The Who. Was that kind of a pivotal influence on you? And one of you saw Alice Cooper. Was that some kind of the breeding grounds for saying, let's just play rock and roll and not Motown?
Well, we was kind of searching around at the time. I mean, we all knew how to play the Motown, and that was kind of like, just every day. I mean, if you lived in Detroit, you was a musician, you just knew how to play Motown. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, we were kind of searching for a different identity, and we didn't know where we were at the time. So at the time, we was calling ourselves Rock Fire Funk Express.
Yes, I heard the first name.
And while we was in the middle of that name, we was kind of searching around, because you had, you had the Funkadelic. They had the market covered on the funk. Mm-hmm. So I mean, you couldn't get past that. They were the kings, and of course you had Motown. They were doing their thing, but you had Detroit Rock City. That's a special part of Detroit that. We kind of got into, and getting into that, hanging out with our friends who played, rock guitar and stuff like that. We eventually got to go to see some of the live concerts. And it's an ironic story, because one night my mother was just on the way to another party, okay? And to get to that party, we had to walk through the arena where Alice Cooper was playing. Oh. And that was the first time I knew who he was, but that was the first time I got an up-close glimpse of what it was like to be at a real rock concert.
Right.
And man, when I looked up on the stage, it just didn't look like those guys was working. They looked like they was just having a good time, and obviously I zeroed in the drummer, and he was just totally reckless abandon, while keeping the beat. And that just looked so good.
You want to jump on that rock and roll train?
Right, man, because they didn't look like they were working. Yeah. They looked like they were having fun. So that's the way I wanted to play, with Bob and Dave at the time. And when I took the concept home, and they literally threw me out of the room.
Not going to happen.
But then the flip side of that is when, about 3 months later, the Who came to town on the Quadrophenia tour. Mm-hmm. And Dave got a chance to see that show. And when he came back, that's when we all...
Your brother Dave saw the Who on the Quadrophenia tour.
Yes, he did. He saw the Who, right? As a matter of fact, at the same place I saw Alice Cooper.
Right on.
And it was like 3 months later, and he came back and he had the same idea that I had. I mean, those guys was just on the stage having fun.
I wanted to ask you 3 quick questions. One, about the Masters, Was there a chance, because I know your brother said, hey, hold these Masters, save these Masters, because someday these Masters are going to be seen by the world. Is there a chance that, because you guys, when you weren't as confident at one particular time frame with all the rejections, was there a chance that maybe those Masters could have just gotten trashed and lost forever?
No.
Well, not in the Hackney family. I mean, because the thing is that, our mom really, she always kept a lot of cherished archives of the families, like pictures and photos. And that's what really helped with the documentary, is that we was allowed access to a lot of that stuff. And but no, it was special to us because I think that we would have kept him, and especially with David leaving us, we'd have kept him until the day we left, even if no one else knew about that but us. And even at David's funeral, Dennis told me, he says, I guess that the death story is just going to go down with David, like, and be one of the greatest rock and roll stories that nobody ever heard of.
Absolutely.
Or except us and the people we interacted with in Detroit. And that was in 2001. 8 years later.
Yeah.
So it's just been an amazing journey.
Question for Bobby Duncan. You are and were in the reggae band.
Yes.
These guys.
Yes.
And that's how you ended up becoming the guitarist for Death. I remember a part in the documentary you know, when you went and played one of the first songs with them, you guys just knew that it was meant to happen this way? Was it something in the documentary that it was a magical moment? They said, Bobby Duncan is going to be the guitarist for Death.
Yeah, it was really it was kind of a surreal moment because what happened is actually Thursday night is our rehearsal night, you know, usually on a normal basis. And we're just, you know, doing our thing, and I came to rehearsal that night, and Bob came down with a CD with a different kind of vibe about him at the time, you know, not to say this is do our thing, but he had something on his mind. I could tell we know each other that night. And so he gave me the CD, and he started telling me about the Death Project. And of course, I was a little taken aback by the name, but then again, you know, this is another era, you know. But I said, okay. But what really took me aback is that I didn't know these guys play rock. I've been playing with them for like how many years, and didn't know they were doing a rock thing. They kept it a secret from me. So I'm like, what, you know? So I finally go home, you know, and when I go home after rehearsal that night, we did our regular thing. Go home that night, and put the CD on, and I mean, I couldn't wait to play this stuff when I came back the next day.
That's awesome.
It was awesome.
That's awesome.
The material was great.
I'm talking about keeping it a secret thing. There's one thing that I always wanted to ask, because when I was watching, you know, with Bobby Jr., is it Rage Francis? Is that the band?
Rough
Francis. But here's the thing. Why did you guys keep it a secret from your kids that you were in a hardcore band? When I saw that in the documentary, I just wanted to jump on screen and strangle you. If my dad was in a hardcore band, I was like, that's the coolest fucking thing. You guys let your kids know you're a reggae band, but no, we don't want them to know we're in a hardcore band.
Well, you know, we didn't see, you know, the thing is that we didn't do that on purpose. What had happened was, like Dennis said, we went through so much rejection. And by the time we left Burlington or Detroit and we moved to Burlington, that was David's idea.
Okay.
And we kind of came here and we did some other music, and that suffered a lot of rejection as well. So, you know, with David going back to Detroit and us going into reggae music, and that was right around the time that our kids were being born. So we became this popular reggae band, and they grew up in bliss thinking that their, you know, uncles were like these great reggae stars. And we were throughout New England, so, you know, they only saw that side of us, so it never really dawned on me to go back into that time that was very painful for us. And it wasn't like I said that I was trying to keep it from them, but at the time, in the 80s, I had gravitated to CD Walkmans and, you know, disc players like everybody else. So those tapes were up in the attic. I didn't have access to a reel-to-reel tape recorder, you know. And it wasn't like I was going to sit around on any Sunday and say, okay, kids, let's go and listen to some Death. So I mean, you know, that's the way it was. Hi, I'm Bobby Hackney.
Hi, I'm Dennis Hackney.
Hi, I'm Bobby Duncan.
And we're the band Death, and you're watching BlankTV, dangerous music for dangerous people. Hey, Death has a new LP coming out in 2014, and we just released a single, a little sample from that album. The song is called Relief, and on the other side is a song from the Death Archive called Story of the World, written by myself and David Hackney. So we hope you enjoy it, and we hope that you tune in and keep on listening. What do you say now?
Nobody was making music like that in '73.
Three black brothers from Detroit, Michigan.
What were they called?
They were called Death.
That's a good name.
Have you lost your mind?
Told us you guys might have a record deal if you change the name.
Absolutely not. We are fighting to maintain our identity.
It's pretty hard to be black playing rock because you had to be Motown if you were black.
White boy music.
We got turned down by every major label.
I just put the tapes in a safe place. I didn't think about it.
One day the world's going to come looking for the Death Master tapes.
There's been hardcore history sitting up in that attic, and no one's known about it.
We're just now discovering this band that had been sort of lying in wait
something they pressed 30 years ago, selling for $800.
Dad, why didn't you tell me?
Lisa, they're playing your music at underground parties here?
It's been 34 years since the songs have been heard.
It's one of those things that keeps you going to the record store, hoping for another great story like that.
The ultimate I don't know of a story like that. I don't know of one.